So now this unit is kind of the advanced part of this. So this is getting you into so you can go into geometry honors. So it's important that we kind of hit everything in this unit because you're going to use it in geometry and algebra 2. So standard form is and we're talking about a quadratic equation. So that's something that's squared. So this whole unit is going to be about squares. So standard form, this will be important. It's going to be y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And the only reason I'm using these letters A, B, and C is because I don't know what they are. So those could be any numbers. They can be positive, they can be negative, they can be decimals, they can be fractions, they can be roots, they can be all kinds of things. But in Algebra 1, we're just going to work with positive and negative whole numbers. Okay? So the graph of this is called a parabola. So a quadratic equation is the name of the function, and the graph is a parabola. And it makes a U-shaped graph, and we're actually going to look at these on our calculators here. So again, I have to use Desmos for my calculator. I can't use the TI. But if I go to Desmos, and I go to my graphing calculator, okay, it wants me to graph. It says use your calculator to graph the following and sketch it. X squared plus 2x minus 5. So x squared plus 2x minus 5. So it makes a U-shaped graph. Okay, and it hits down here at -1, -6. And then it looks like it hits there at kind of weird places, which we'll learn about. And it goes through at a -5. That's important because look at like y equals mx plus b. That -5 is your last term. And that parabola is hitting at a -5. So it must still follow your line things that the constant is where it hits the y-axis. Okay, which that's going to be important. So it wants us to go ahead and sketch it. Okay. So go ahead and take your, sorry, my hair was getting in my way. So go ahead and take your pen, and we're at like a -1, -6. It goes through at a -5, and it goes back up, and it is symmetrical. Okay, so it looks like that. Just a sketch. It just wanted a sketch. All right, so then we're going to go to the next part. So -x squared. So -x squared plus 3x plus 7. And if we look, it does hit at 7 right there. So that means that it still follows the y equals mx plus b, where that constant term is where it hits. But if you notice, it has a high point instead of a low point. So it goes as a maximum. Like if I kicked a soccer ball, this is what it would look like. Okay, so I am looking at this, or if I ran a business and I was selling t-shirts, like this could be my profit graph. Okay, so if I were to sketch this, whoa, back off. It went through at 7 and then up like this and back down. Okay, so that's what it means by a U-shaped curve. It kind of makes like a bowlish type thing. So the important thing to remember is if this value in front is positive, I can't spell. If that value in front is positive, then the parabola is going to open up. It's a smile. It's a positive. It's giving you a smile. Okay, if the A value like this was a negative, then the A value is negative, then my parabola is going to open down. It's going to make a frown. Okay, frown is down. Okay, if you look at these, they have, and you learned this in past math classes, they have what's called a line of symmetry, like something that goes right down the middle and cuts it in half. Okay, and so they like to call this an axis of symmetry, but it's also a line of symmetry. And what is the line of symmetry is the vertical line that divides the parabola into equal parts. Now, I always go back and forth. I get in like math fights with other math teachers about this. Some people don't teach the formula. They make them guess and check. And guessing and checking is painful. And so I'm just going to give you what the formula is to find this low point. And then we're going to practice it with these two up here that we already did. And I'll type them in again and we can look at it. Okay, so the formula for the axis of symmetry is the x value is a negative b over 2a. And you're going to see where that comes from later in this unit. So let's go back up to these first ones we did up here. Okay, I'm going to just zoom back up to here and use this formula. So remember, a is the number in front of the squared. So my a is 1. B is the number in front of the x. So my b is 2. And my c is a negative 5. But I don't really need c for this formula, but I'm going to need c later. So what this formula says is that the axis of symmetry would be at a negative 2, because that's a negative b, over 2a. Well, a times 2 is 1 times 2 is 2. So my axis of symmetry is going to be at x equals a negative 1, which is a vertical line right here at x equals a negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to go in and and I should have started with the other one because that graph is on here, but I'm just going to go in and I'm going to prove this to you really quickly. So if I type that back in, and you don't have to put this in your calculator, you can just watch, plus 2x plus 5, nope, minus 5. Okay, that is the parabola. Okay, now if I type in the line x equals, what did we get, a negative 1? It cuts right through, that green line cuts right through there. Okay, and so it cuts it so I could fold it in half. All right, does that make sense? Okay, now the negative 1 is important because the negative 1 is the x value. If you see that right there, the negative 1 is my x value. So I know that this point, I'm going to put that in here so you guys can see this. I know that this point is a negative 1 because of this answer. Okay, now how could I find how far down it goes if I don't have a graphing calculator? Can't you put this back in? This is what y equals. So can't I come back up here and put it back in for x? So I'm going to come over here to the side. Negative 1 squared is 1, plus 2 times a negative 1 is a negative 2, minus 5. So that's a negative 1 minus 5 is a negative 6. Isn't that what the graphing calculator got? Okay, negative 1, negative 6. That's exactly what the graphing calculator got down here, negative 1, negative 6. So you're going to be able to do these without calculators. All right, so let's try this next one just to kind of show you. So my A is a negative 1, my B is 3, and my C is 7. So the formula is a negative b, so negative 3 over 2a, so a negative 2. So this point would be a negative 1 point, or negative over a negative, that's a positive. So that line is going to happen at 1.5. Okay, and so now I can put the 1.5 back in to figure out what it is at the top. So I'm going to do this on this part of my calculator. So I would not ask you to do 1.5 squared without a calculator. So it's 2.25, but then you're taking the negative of it, plus 3 times 1.5. So 3 times 1.5 is 4.5, plus 7. So if I have a negative 2.25, I'm just using my calculator, plus 4.5, and then I'm going to add that to 7, I get 9.25. Okay, hopefully I did the math right because I'm struggling bus this morning. Okay, so if I put that equation in, so let's put that equation in and see how we did. So that equation is, sorry, I lost it here. Negative x squared, negative x squared plus 3x plus 7. Okay, does this happen at 1.5, 9.25? 1.5, 9.25. That's exactly what I got, right? I got 1.5, 9.25. And if I put the line x equals 1.5 in, That goes right through the middle of the parabola. So these are important formulas that we're going to use to help us graph these without a calculator. Okay. All right. So I kind of was talking about the vertex as we did this. The vertex is the turning point of the parabola. Okay. The lowest point is also called a minimum. And the highest point is a maximum. Okay. All right, so we're going to do a couple of examples of this. So whenever I get one of these, right away, I write what A is, it's 1, what B is, it's 8, and what C is, it's 15. And so if I want the axis of symmetry, I do a negative B over 2A. So my axis of symmetry is at a -4. Okay, then I'm going to take that -4 and I'm going to plug it into these equations. Okay, so -4 squared is 16 plus 8 times a -4 is a -32 plus 15. So that is a -16 plus 15 is a -1. Oops, sorry. So that gives me the y value, -1. I already found the x value because that was the -4 that I found from the axis of symmetry. So then when I sketch the graph, I'm going to go back 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1. And I know that it opens up because it's positive. I don't need you to find me. I just need you to sketch it. This says sketch. So that doesn't mean that you're going to get out graph paper right now. You just want to be able to get the right shape of it. Okay, so let's try another one. These get a little confusing. I always start by writing down A is a -1, B is 10, C is a -23. So my axis of symmetry formula is a -B over 2A. So that would be 5. So that means my axis of symmetry is 5. So now I'm going to take that 5 and I'm going to plug it into here. And I'm going to find the y. Now, you got to be careful. 5 squared is 25. The negative is out in front, so that's a -25. Plus 5 times 10 is 50 minus 23. So this together is 25. 25 minus 23 is 2. So I found the x value, the y value, and I found the x value by doing a -b over 2a. So when I sketch a graph, I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 2. That's my vertex, and then it's going down. It doesn't have to be a perfect graph. I don't need any other points. Okay. All right, so let's try the next one. So if I look at this, I'm going to do A equals 3, B equals a -12, C equals 5. Okay, my axis of symmetry is a -B over 2A, so my axis of symmetry is 2. I'm going to take that 2 and put it into here. So remember, you square first. 2 squared is 4, 4 times 3 is 12. Some kids want to do 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 squared is 36, but that's not the right order of operations. Let me just write that out so you can see what I'm saying. So this is saying 3 times 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 5. I've got to square first and then times by 3. So that's 12 minus 24 plus 5. 12 minus 24 is a -12 plus 5 is a -7. So this is at 2 comma -7. So I'm going to go over here, over 2, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it is going up because it is a positive A value. And we'll learn more about that later. Okay, I would like you to pause the video and I would like you to try 4, 5, and 6, please. So again, I always do make my list. So -B over 2A is a -1. So my axis of symmetry is x equals a -1. Plug that in there. -1 squared is 1 times 4 plus 8 times a negative 1 is a negative 8 minus 1. So this is a negative 4 minus 1. So my vertex is at a negative 4, negative 5. So my sketch would be negative 1, negative 5. I said it. I didn't say it right, but I wrote it right. Okay, and this thing is definitely opening up because it has a positive A value. Okay, on the next one, my A is a negative 1. My B is a negative 4. My C is a negative 2. Negative B over 2A is a negative 2. So I'm going to put that in there. Just because of the negative signs, I'm going to write it out. You're squaring first, that's 4. And then you're taking the negative of it, plus 8 minus 2. So that's 4 minus 2, which is 2. So my vertex is at a negative 2, 2. Negative 2, positive 2, and it's going down. You got to be really careful with your order of operations. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this last one, and then we're going to look at just a couple other things I want to make sure you know. A is a negative 3, B is a negative 24, C is a negative 42. And I don't really need the C for right now, but I'm just going over it. So you're doing a negative B over 2A. So that would be a negative 4. Okay, plug that in, negative 3 times a negative 4 squared minus 24 times a negative 4 minus 42. Okay, so 4 squared, negative 4 squared is a positive 16, but then you're timesing it by negative 3. So that's a negative 48 plus 96 minus 42. So if you put all that together, you get 6. So your vertex is at a negative 4, 6. And it's going down. And that's where this C comes in because it's going to hit way down at a negative 42. Okay, I want to take a look at number 8 quick. So on number 8, the A value is 1. The B value is 0. There's no X term. The C value is a negative 3. So you're doing a negative B over 2A. So your axis of symmetry is just 0. Okay, and then you're plugging that in there. 0 squared is 0, and 0 minus 3 is a negative 3. So your vertex is at 0, negative 3. So you're going over 0, down 3, and you're going up. Okay, so those get a little tricky when you're missing a value. So like on this one, you're just missing the constant. So that doesn't affect you on number 7. I would like you to pause the video, and I would like you to try number 8. 9, 9, 9. Try 9. We just did 8. A is a negative 2, B is 0, C is 8. So I'm doing a negative B over 2A. So my axis of symmetry is 0. And then I'm plugging 0 in there, and that's going to be 0 plus 8. So my vertex is at 0, 8. Okay, I'm going over 0, up 8, and this thing is going down like this. Okay, so here is the first unit of this.